long has Camp Horizons been around?
You know, it's crazy. It's hard for me to believe that we just had our 42nd summer. And I wish I was 5 when I started, but that's not true. But it's been an incredible adventure. And, you know, it's a classic example of how, you know, you have some ideas, but you combine those with many other ideas from many other people and create something special. So I say I'm one of the directors because there's many people that have been engaged and involved in the creation of Camp Horizons and the sustainability of Camp Horizons. I'm John Hall, and I'm one of the directors of Camp Horizons.
So we have probably about 350, 400 acres, all right next to the George Washington National Forest, which is an awesome neighbor to have. But we use probably about 180 of that, and so we still have a lot of kind of bare woodland, which is a fun thing to have on the property.
How did you end up getting this beautiful property?
It's a kind of a roundabout crazy story, but you know, I wasn't one of those kids in school that had a track to college and had my eye on a career or whatever it might have been. You know, I was a little bit more challenged in school, and I enjoyed doing things in the out of doors and adventure activities, and always was ready for a new adventure. And so when I finished school, I went to Outward Bound, which was a program in Colorado that I was there for 40 days, basically, or about 40 days without seeing a bathroom. And so that just to give the idea that it was an adventure. But it really taught me some basic life skills of understanding that, you know, if you're willing to put the effort into something, you know, it's worth it. And especially the return on that. When I got back, I ended up 2 days later in a summer camp. And it felt like a lot of things came together for me. It was the outdoor adventure piece, you know, that you can find at camp. It was working with people and creating experiences for children. And so I did that for a year, and I went back the next summer, and I led a backpacking trip to the Shenandoah Valley, which ironically is less than a mile down the road. And I got a job there, and I was able to start going to school at JMU, James Madison University. But I was doing maintenance, and I love maintenance. I love facilities and building and all, but I really wanted to get back in programming. So I contacted the owner of what is now Camp Horizons. It was called Camp Fairhaven at the time. And I approached him about getting a job to help him run the summer camp so that I could create a stipend salary for myself as I finished school. And he said he would meet with me, and we met. And about 10 minutes into the conversation, he says, you know, I think I'm going to sell it. I'm kind of tired of this. Why don't you buy it? And I was kind of surprised because I pulled up in my baby blue Volkswagen Bug. And I was 22 years old, and I was in school. And I confidently, I guess, would say, okay, let me think about that. And got some details, and I found some wonderful people at James Madison, Dr. Joe Kosnick, who took me under his wing. He was head of the finance department, and he was willing to work with me. And he took me to a class he was teaching at UVA. He asked me to give them my spiel or what I wanted to do. And he asked 3 of the students to take it on as a class project. And 2 of them were CPAs and 1 was a GE exec. Such, of course, there was one detail, is that I gave them my estimated expenses and estimated incomes. And somehow they got inverted, I think. But anyway, Dr. Joe Kosnick gave me 85% success rate. And I thought, a B? You know, why isn't it better? And he said, that's really good. And he said, I think you have enough tenacity to make it happen. So I was off and running, but I closed the last day of 1982. as Endless Horizons Incorporated, which is sort of the overarching camp. Because when you're 22, you think you're going to get 100 camps. So Endless made sense to me. And we got our first camper, which happens to be on the wall over there. And that was Easter weekend before the summer was our first camper.
Yeah, so we're walking up one of the edges of camp. We're about to get up to our soccer field and kickball area, and then approach where we have our new farm and garden. I guess a little bit more in depth than a petting zoo, but we call it Grampy's Farm in honor of our farmer Bobby. We've been lucky enough to have a local man who spent 40 years in the dairy industry milking cows every day, and now he spends his whole summer teaching the kids about farming, because a lot of our campers, they don't necessarily get to know anything about where their food comes from. And so that's been a really awesome thing, just allowing them to interact with all the farm animals. So these are two greenhouses next to our educational garden. In the summer, we'll have big lines of tomatoes, peppers, carrots. We have some cabbage in there right now, but it just kind of gives an opportunity to watch food grow for our campers.
How many staff did you start with?
That first summer, we had 13 counselors, and the first session we had 12 campers. We did get up to, I think, 35 in our largest session that year. But boy, was it a great year. And there's fond memories from then. And anytime you get a group of staff or people together to do something for the first time, you're breaking new ground every day. And I think a lot of what we established in 1983, we continue today. I'll never forget myself and the program director, Gary Heaton, who we met at another camp. We were sitting out there as parents were dropping off their children, and there was two mothers that were still staying around. And I thought, well, I better go check on them. And so I went and I said, is everything okay? And they said, we're looking around here and we don't see anybody over 30. And then I said, oh, we have a guy that works at the horses. He's over 30, but he's just not here today. Anyway, we were able to comfort them enough so that they were able to leave and their children had a nice experience. But it was a challenge because everything was new. But to have an opportunity to create a space for children to feel comfortable as if they were home and be treated with the respect and given the opportunities to be challenged is invaluable. And that's why it's kind of funny when campers come back each year and when staff come back, even if they haven't been here in 20 years, 30 years, we always say welcome home because we want to be that place. It's like you, Will. When you came back, the first thing I told you was welcome home. When you open up a summer camp, you're asking parents to bring their children to a place and rely on others to take care of their child, their most precious thing in the world, and keep them safe and sound and help them grow for 2 weeks. It's a huge responsibility. And I never took that lightly, and not to this day. We have a thing that we do sometimes in staff training. Think of someone you love more than anyone else in the world. And what would Camp Horizons need to be for you to feel comfortable sending someone you love more than anyone else in the world? What would the staff need to be like? What would the programs need to be like? What would the safety and the care of the campers need to be like? And so that's something that if you approach things from that angle, I often use my son Jake, who's now a big part of Camp Horizons, because every counselor that comes has a little brother or a little sister or a friend that they love more than anyone else in the world. And for them to have that perspective that they need to create a place and an experience that they would feel comfortable sending that person they love, I feel like makes a difference and has over the years. And a place that children want to be.
Hey guys, where'd you go now?
Farmer Bobby, he'll bring in a bunch of other animals such as alpacas, emus, many different varieties of chickens. He hatches in our hatchery, geese, ducklings, and chicks. just tons of different things for the campers to either pick up, feed, or just kind of watch from a safe distance depending on their comfort. So inside the barn is more of our classroom space. We have some pins over on that side of the room, and then the smaller cages right here are more for just either some chickens, ducklings, rabbits, whatever the class of the day might be. So throughout the week, there tends to be, different focuses for each day.
We're at the camp that I went to in the 90s, which the first night I was terrified, of course. But then, your philosophy worked. Like the rest of the time I felt at home, and I still feel at home. I was happy to have you welcome me here. But you have several locations at this point, is that correct?
Camp Horizons is the main location for our programs. We have recently had the opportunity to manage a property and run a program up in Fairfax County called Hemlock Overlook. And this summer we're going to start a camp there, an overnight camp for 60 children ages 6 to 10, as an opportunity for them to come for a 1-week experience to really get comfortable with being away from home, and actually helping their parents be comfortable with them being away from home as well. What's been in common with everything that we've done over these 42 years is it's been about people. And I didn't get that right away, but in the last bunch of years, I realized that's what's been important to us. Everything is focused, whether it's working with adults in a training situation, or campers at camp, or school groups in the off-season in our outdoor learning center. Everything that we do has to do with people. And one of our mottos in our youth services organization is we grow people. And that sounds like a big task, but it's the old adage of helping somebody create a new skill set for themselves, that they can have a better life for themselves and the people they love.
So the camp has expanded a lot since I've been here. Are you guys always expanding, or is this kind of where you want to be at? Like, do you have, what are the plans for the future?
Yeah, I think there's two kind of answers to that. Is we're always, looking to expand certain offerings and our quality here. But as far as, expanding out on the facility, it would really have to be a perfect adjoining, part of the property to do that. But we're never going to change having kids walk around to each activity. And so there's only so much you can expand before that becomes more unrealistic and we would get hated by our campers. I want to round up some goats. What's up, friends?
Something that has been a cornerstone of our camp now is our leadership program. And that's a program where children that have been campers at Camp Horizons, after their junior year of high school, they apply to be in the leadership program. And they're here for 4 weeks during the summer. So we have 2 groups, 4 weeks and 4 weeks. They come in and they learn, maybe for the first time, some of them, to put their needs behind others. And so they're given opportunities to work with the children that are here, that are younger than them. And they recognize what the children are excited about experiencing because they did it themselves. But at the end of that program, they do a presentation about what Camp Horizons means to them, which is powerful. And almost, from my perspective, becomes even a greater responsibility for what we do because of what the results are or shared with us by the leadership campers. The last thing that I'd like to share, though, that we've done from the first night of Camp Horizons in 1983 to the last night from this past summer, is we always end it with a song. And it's a song that not only brings the day to an end, but it's a way to symbolize what we really feel Camp Horizons is. I told you that it's a place that we wanted, children to feel comfortable and welcome home and such. but we want to make sure there's more meat on the bone. There's something else there to it. And this is a song that I kind of may have twisted the words a little bit, but it was a song from Up With People from my earlier experiences that was written by a wonderful songwriter named Paul Caldwell. And the song is, "We are many, we are one, brothers and sisters sharing the sun. We all beat to a different drum, but we are many, we are one." And the song, through those words, recognizes we all have something in common, and we need to celebrate that. But we also have differences. We approach things differently. We play differently. We live differently. But we need to respect those differences because they're all important to who we are as a community. Each night we have a community meeting that celebrates each other, what you experienced that day, and we have a time where there's thank yous, which we don't often do in life, but to thank someone else for an experience they had. But I feel that through the We Are Many, We Are One closing each night, the community meetings, we keep in the forefront what's important to us each and every day. And you mentioned about, well, I could have stopped down. From a legacy perspective, I feel like I'm still 22, but I know that I'm not. But I mentioned to you that this isn't a one-person place here. And I look at every building that we built since I've been here, and, I've had input into it, but there's not one building that hasn't had multiple people's ideas created. And I can even point to them as we go around. It's interesting. People have created the buildings and the programs. If I look at the buildings themselves, they've been created by other buildings. I took the opportunity to start tearing barns down when people were, needed to get rid of them, or structures or others. And so all of Camp Horizons is built with bits and pieces of materials from buildings from in the Shenandoah Valley, which to me tells a story. And sometimes I like to lean up against a building and think that it's going to give me some of the rich history from what's inside it, just as you would lean up to a tree and ask it to tell you stories. But I think that is also symbolic of us at Camp Horizons, that everybody has taken a part in it. As I look to the future, I couldn't be more excited to have my dear son working here, Jake, who has grown up here. He knows every corner of every place, but he does it with humility and appreciation for what he has. And to me, I couldn't ask for anything else.